Hello, my Cameroonian brothers and sisters. I am Corinne Jeanne Elia Tangane. I am the Secretary General of Lilipac, the Lions and Indomitable Lions, for the Pan-African liberation of Cameroon. Oh, my brothers and sisters, it is a pleasure to see you again. Today is Saturday, September, and you know that we promised not to remain silent anymore when it comes to the future of our dear and beautiful country, Cameroon. This morning, I am here to talk to you to break down the campaign video of President Paul Biya. While he is relaxing in Switzerland instead of campaigning like the other candidates on equal footing, he allows himself to circulate his campaign video on social media. I am sad to tell you, my brothers and sisters, that we will find the state coffers empty. And I am telling you to trust the members of Lilipac because we are offering you the best solution. We are offering you the transition, the one that Cameroon needs, so that together we can update the laws, restore functioning institutions, and together rebuild Cameroon. We are going to enter a new era because the time has come. So I am telling you that I am confident, and I know that Cameroonians are listening to us. Not just Cameroonians, but also members of the government who need help. They need help. Here is a president who abandoned 63 members of his government and went to Switzerland, even though he knows that Cameroon is on the verge of implosion and that at any moment Cameroonians could rise up and he will have to face the consequences. I bleed for Cameroonians. We bleed for Cameroonians, and that's why we must stand up. And that we must all fight together. Paul Biya, Paul Biya, Paul Biya, Paul Biya. Your campaign speech says this. Cameroon has consolidated the foundations of a free, sovereign, and united nation. Hastafirullah. I told you that we would discuss this in 6 points, one by one. Point number 1, Biya tells us that Cameroon has consolidated the foundations of a free nation. The nation of Cameroon is free. Here is Tanganyi, also known as Moulinex, the Mainat, your Minister of Territorial Administration, who in less than a week has released 3 threatening videos directed at Cameroonians. Threats. He even took the place of the Minister of Justice by saying he would put people in prison for indefinite periods. Who is he? Who is he? Cameroonians are not afraid of him. But you abandoned it and you are in Switzerland. I pity him. Poor man. Cameroon has built the foundations of a free and sovereign nation. Sovereign. President Paul Biya, I don't know if you have read the latest IMF report. The IMF report is 129 pages long. 129 pages. And this IMF report says this. My brothers and sisters, I will open it to quickly read you the summary. I'm not going to give you an economics lesson because it's sad to read line by line, but the report, we will make it available to you, the members of Lilipac, if you want it. It's 129 pages long. The IMF report, which is in a press release and was ready for immediate release, is dated June 2025. The June 2025 IMF report is IMF report number 25-71, which is therefore 129 pages long. I'm not going to read it to you line by line because it's distressing, but I've summarized it for you so that Paul Biya can listen. But not just him, the 63 members of the government as well. Have you read it? Those of you who dare to support Biya in 2025, have you read it? The IMF report says this. Cameroon's public debt is still high, around 42% of GDP in 2024. With a high risk of over-indebtedness. That's what the IMF says, I'm reading it. The IMF says it alone represents 7% of Cameroon's total external debt, or about $1,045 million in 2023. They said 2023, it will be worse in 2025. The IMF represents and says this, non-oil budget deficits remain chronic. I said, well, listen carefully, my brothers. It is written in the report. It is available. Oil budget deficits remain chronic. Minus 2.5% of gross domestic product in 2023, projected at 1.3% in 2025. We are only getting poorer, and it requires constant support from the IMF to be sustainable. Here are people in Washington who have studied everything that the Cameroonian government has done as work over the past 40 years. These are economic specialists who wrote 129 pages and who clearly tell us that oil budget deficits remain chronic and that they require constant support from the IMF to be sustainable. My brothers and sisters, where is the sovereignty? Do you hear how they talk about your country, Cameroon? And that without the IMF, we are ill-prepared, we are off to a bad start, that we can only survive and get by thanks to the constant support of the IMF. President Paul Biya, where is the sovereignty? Where is the sovereignty? The IMF goes on to say that IMF disbursements have become essential to cover financing needs and support the balance of payments. My dear and beautiful country, Cameroon, this is where we are now. The IMF concluded the following. Cameroon remains heavily dependent on the IMF to balance its budget, restructure its debt, and attract other external financing. So if they are not there, we can't do anything. That's what they say, and that's what they tell President Paul Biya and his government. They go on. The IMF clearly writes, without this support, over $800 million already mobilized, the country would struggle to cope with its deficits, stabilize its debt, and finance its structural reforms. Here is an IMF report, my brothers and sisters, with these precise figures showing exactly where we stand in Cameroon. And this, they steadfastly continue to support. They persistently continue to support the Paul Biya government, even though they fully know that we are utterly doomed. And Galway is in this, and do you know why? Because they want Motaze to go collect taxes from women in the markets to pay back their debts. And they do it without scruples, without shame. In June 2024, the IMF approved a program under the Resilience and Sustainability Facility for 138 million SDRs. SDRs are special drawing rights, which allow Cameroon to go into debt. Antiquated and neo-colonial tools. The SDR was established in 1973, and here we are in 2025, still bringing African countries to their knees. No one questions these kinds of things. They don't have the courage to do so. The members of Lilipac do. I'll spare you what I read from this report, but I can tell you it's available. But let me get back to President Paul Biya's speech. Paul Biya, this president who is bringing Cameroon to its knees. Our Cameroon is not sovereign. Sovereignty starts with not being economically dependent. You can't be economically dependent on the IMF and claim to be sovereign. You are on your knees, President Biya, before the IMF and the World Bank. And you are also on your knees before the former powers. Colonial. We still have former colonial powers interfering in Cameroon. Our army, you call Hubert Bonneau. You go to Switzerland, you meet with American military leaders. That's not sovereignty. Our President Paul Biya, you know there is no unity. You talk about unity. Unity was weakened because of the Anglophone crisis that you failed to manage. It is you who have divided Cameroon. You found a peaceful Cameroon. You divided it. You created ethnic and regional tensions, President Paul Biya. Freedom is constantly threatened by political repression. And you continue because you refuse to allow democratic change. And you continue to violate human rights. Cameroon has not consolidated the foundations of a free nation. We are not free. We are economically dependent on the IMF. Cameroon is sovereign. We are not sovereign. I have just proven it to you. We are over-indebted and we are on our knees because the IMF states it clearly in the conclusions I have just presented to you. This report is available. Cameroon is not united, Paul Biya. You have divided it. You have weakened it with the Anglophone crisis, and you have created ethnic tensions. We have the Bamileke, who want to put an end to the Bulus. There are Bulus who are either pro or anti-Bamis. We have people from the north who say they want power to return to the north. We have, it's endless. You have created completely unnecessary problems for Cameroon. President Paul Biya, and you go hide in Switzerland. Cameroon, in the end, is not free because of your political repression, because you want to force things through this year without the Cameroonian people. If I were you, I would call on the members of Lilipac, because you know that we have the ability to ensure this transition with minimal damage. Point number 2 of your campaign video. You say that ambitious projects have been carried out with visible results. President Paul Biya, do you live in Cameroon? Do you sympathize? Do you have any empathy for your Cameroonian brothers and sisters? The majority of infrastructure projects, roads, hospitals, schools, are unfinished or of poor quality. Let me start again. The majority of the infrastructure projects during your rule, President Paul Biya, are unfinished or of poor quality. We will have to start over from scratch. Corruption diverts a large portion of the allocated budgets. We will have to recover the money that is in all the coffers of your government. All your government members will have to go through their bank accounts line by line and prove how they earned the money they possess. President Paul Biya, the results are not visible. These are showcase projects. You show us stadiums, hotels, and you say you've accomplished something. That's what you present in your video. You show stadiums and hotels, and you call that visible results. The housewife needs to eat. Respect us, respect our mothers, please. Number 3, President Paul Biya dares to tell us that these achievements have been undermined by threats to stability and development. Here again is a cowardice typical of the president. The Cameroonian government under Paul Biya tends to blame external enemies or armed groups to cover up its own responsibility for the instability. This instability is your doing, because instead of joining the AES, are you preparing to fight against Boko Haram? It's always someone else's fault. It's COVID's fault. It's the fault of external enemies. Who are Cameroon's external enemies, President Paul Biya, if not the imperialists and their IMF? Poor governance, social injustice, youth unemployment. Those are the real threats to Cameroon. President Paul Biya, you are in Switzerland. And you don't care about Cameroon's governance, about us, about the youth, about the people. Dependence on raw exports, President Paul Biya, that's what's killing Cameroon. You are dependent. Cocoa, oil, timber, name it, our 3 main resources, show that development hasn't been built on solid foundations. You haven't built the government, the development of Cameroon, on solid foundations, President Paul Biya. Point number 4 of your speech. I took notes so I wouldn't forget anything. You say, thanks to the experience of a seasoned statesman and the courage of the people, the country has preserved its borders and its independence. Yeah. The country hasn't seen a political transition in 40 years. 40 years, we haven't had a political transition. Political transition is important in a country because every member of the government, every president comes with new ideas, new energy, a new drive. All my brave Cameroonians who are capable of launching amazing projects for Cameroon can't do so, because to make it happen, they have to go and greet Mvondo Ayolo, they have to go and greet Ngongo, the most incompetent people you could find, just so they can keep oppressing Cameroonians. That's not experienced President Paul Biya. It's the confiscation of power. It's called the confiscation of power. There's nothing experienced about it. The borders, you talk about borders, another Cameroonian people. The borders are actually fragile, Paul Biya. We have a lot of trouble in the north. We have secession in the west. We have insecurity on the Central African and Nigerian borders. Paul Biya, what do you have to say? You go to Switzerland. You are the head of the armed forces. What are you doing? What are you saying? And you end up talking about independence. You dared to say, courage to the people paid to preserve its borders and its independence. Independence is an illusion, President Paul Biya. What independence? Where are the strategic decisions? The currency? The military agreements, the economy, completely influenced by foreign powers. Before leaving, we saw you receive a chief from AFRICOM. Before leaving for France, we saw you invite Hubert Bonneau. What independence are you talking about, President Paul? If there is one person who, because of the war we suffered in Cameroon, should have said no to the neocolonialists, it is you. But you are going to leave us with a catastrophic legacy. You failed to say no to this strategic dependence. You failed to say no to the CFA. You failed to say no to the military agreements. You failed to say no to all these interferences. President Paul Biya, the new generation will make sure to rewrite the books. And in the books that we will give to all Cameroonians, we will make sure to write about the level of incompetence and the 40 years that Cameroonians have lost, and to highlight all the disaster and all the tragedy that Cameroon has suffered because of you. President Paul Biya, we are not independent. Our borders are in danger and we are still dependent on Macron's currency, whom you congratulate. We are still dependent on the military agreements that you invite, and we are still on our knees economically. Point 5. President Paul Biya, you say the unstable context has made this struggle more difficult. Now we're starting again to find excuses to justify these internal failures. The unstable international context has made this struggle difficult. The struggle, what struggle are you talking about? It's just an excuse to justify internal failures. Other African countries have faced the same difficulties. They have faced the same global context, but they are making progress. They are making progress even though they've had the same difficulties. Ghana, Botswana, do you think they haven't faced all these challenges? Is it really this international context? Where are they now? Traoré, look at Burkina Faso. Look at the results of the AES countries. President Paul Biya. International instability doesn't explain the endemic corruption you've brought to Cameroon. It doesn't justify the mismanagement of resources or the lack of public services. 40 years and you haven't been able to build a single road. 40 years, President Paul Biya. What does that have to do with the international context? What connection is there? Point number 6, my brothers and sisters, and I'll stop here because it pains me. The commitment remains firm to preserve peace, unity, and ensure development. I'm tired of hearing about peace and unity. I blame the opposition who say, peace and the ballot box, peace and the ballot box. Biya says, peace and the ballot box. The opposition comes and says, peace and the ballot box. Peace is an illusion, my brothers. We have arbitrary arrests, civil wars in the Anglophone regions, and they're talking to us about peace. What kind of peace are you talking about? When we are ready to imprison the first Cameroonian who stands up, unity. Oh my. I am sad because I do not see unity. Unity is built when there is social justice. When social justice is rendered, we speak of unity. I start again. I do not say revenge, but I do not say forgiveness either. Neither forgiveness nor revenge, but justice. We call for justice. We are united when justice works. President Paul Biya, here are your 6 key points that I took from your video. Each point you made is the opposite of what is happening in Cameroon. I said it clearly, the opposite of what is happening in Cameroon. Brothers and sisters, this president is in Switzerland. I will summarize for you in a few words. His speech is based on rhetoric that legitimizes his power over and over again. We get fed the same thing every year. He's experienced, he's the man for the job, peace and unity, blah, 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 blah. In reality, there is a lack of sovereignty at every level. Economic, political, monetary. In reality, there is a lack of freedom at every level. Repression, absence of democracy, arbitrary convictions. There is a lack of development at every level. Persistent poverty. We in the diaspora have to keep sending money to our brothers and sisters in Cameroon so they can survive. We can't manage to survive. Infrastructure, zero. Absolutely nothing to show for it. We feel ashamed when we go to other African countries. When people come to Cameroon, we wonder what happened. Long live Lilipac, my brothers and sisters. We need to move toward this transition. Trust us. You are not alone. We are not going to handle this transition alone. We are going to call on Cameroonians from all over the world and those in the country who are still capable, who still have a minimum of dignity. Rise up. Those who have dignity, those who know that President Biya has come to lie to us again and wants to force things through this year. President Paul Biya, I continue to give you advice. Or rather, I should speak to Mavondo Ayolo, to Ngongo, to Chantal Biya, to Fran Biya, and to all those people around you. It is not too late to facilitate the transition and call on honest people. I have no hatred, none at all. I am speaking to you purely about politics. I have just finished breaking down the 6 lies you have just sold to Cameroonians, and I am providing you with supporting evidence point by point. I am a child of Cameroon. The members of Lilipac, represented by the national servant, Professor Fran Yamsi, who is someone who refused to be bought. Lilipac is made up of Divisional Commissioner Hélène Essoko, who is a woman, and Essoka, who is a woman of integrity, who has suffered abuses from the Cameroonian government. Cameroon is made up of Dr. Jean-Yves Mugu, who is a man of integrity who simply wants to return. Cameroon and Lilipac also have, among their youth, Adrian Kayla, a courageous young Cameroonian who is not tribalist, who is not influenced by all this ethnic war that you are trying to impose on Cameroon. She stands with the youth against it. Lilipac is also made up of the People's Assembly. We have a great many Cameroonians who know that we are right and that we speak with truth, solidarity, and justice. And we have with us a great many brave Cameroonians who support us in private messages. We have a great many Cameroonians who support us in Cameroon. We preserve their identity because we don't want Moulinex to come and manage them as you know how to do. But President Paul Biya, if you could stay in Switzerland, that would be good, and help facilitate Cameroon's transition to avoid wars and implosion. We tremble for our Cameroon every day, every single day. Long live Lilipac. It's Saturday. We keep hope alive. We will get there all together. Lilipac, Lilipac, Lilipac. I will get back to you later today because I have more things to say to my Cameroonian people after my morning obligations. Thank you all and see you soon.